So I'm here with Ron White, Dr. Ron White, psychiatrist and Muslim and religious scholar, and we know each other from my temple where you generously drum on many of the services. I've asked you to come and sit with me, do some interviews, some short interviews, but I want to start by this, if you could zoom in on this front page article of the New York Times yesterday, Sunday, Unlimited Options to Keep Children from Terrorism, and how this family, this father who saw evidence that his son was getting radicalized, didn't know what to do, so he turned to the FBI, and he regrets it. He regrets it because it's become a criminal issue, and that the FBI had nothing to offer him in terms of helping to de-radicalize his son. And we've had many conversations. You've actually helped me with a case involving a young Christian man who converted to Islam.
Yes.
And I would just like to hear you share some of your thoughts on this, please.
Good. Yes. I'm hoping that we can develop in every city and all neighborhoods more resources to be available to families. That's our goal. And in order to do that, we have to have people who feel comfortable in talking with people who come from all kinds of neighborhoods. It is true that I'm Muslim, and I'm also an ordained Unitarian Universalist. And I think that being an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister positions me to be in deep dialogue with Jews, in deep dialogue with Muslims, in deep dialogue with Christians, in deep dialogue with Buddhists, in deep dialogue with all people who are of any kind of faith or non-faith, because we're very open-minded and open-hearted. And in addition to that, we have a need right now today, as this article so poignantly illustrates, for people to help right now to provide a way of helping families navigate a very difficult set of challenges.
Right.
We know that there are forces like ISIS, which is a cult, really.
Absolutely.
And the goal of the cult is to seduce people into their radical ideology and to activate them so that they become murderers.
Exactly.
And legitimize murder. Now, it's important to note that the Pakistani woman who murdered people in San Bernardino, the last act that she did was to send a message to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi saying that
the head of
ISIS, that she was going to commit this crime. And there's a very important reason that she did that. She did it because it would mean that as soon as she pulled the trigger, or as soon as she was killed, she would go immediately to heaven.
Well, that's what she was told.
That's what she believed. That was what she believed.
Which is a fraud.
Yes, but she believed that, in fact, that kind of belief is grounded in their whole interpretation of Islam, which is a teeny, narrow, radical interpretation. Nevertheless, it is her belief.
It was her belief.
It was her belief. She's dead.
Right.
And it was legitimized because there is a caliphate. All of those factors had to be in operation. For example, she could not obtain that from the leaders of Al-Qaeda. And there's a reason, because Al-Qaeda is not a caliphate. So that distinction is important for all of these people.
It gives them more credibility in their indoctrination. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, but it also no. It means that it's grounded in their interpretation of the Sharia. See, they have,
which is Muslim law, and the caliphate is basically the kingdom wanting to basically Muslimize the world.
Exactly right. Their goal is to trigger the apocalypse.
Right. So it's another apocalyptic cult.
And they are sincerely dedicated to this belief. They believe that if we engage in war with them, it will trigger the apocalypse and they will win.
Right. So I also want to say that because you're a psychiatrist
Yes.
and an expert in addiction,
Yes.
and you have extensive experience working with young men, I believe you have told
all
me,
kinds
and
of
women.
people. Everybody who's addicted in any way.
So,
Yes.
as you know, we've talked about the need for educating
Yes.
community activists,
Yes.
imams, families, but not just in the Muslim community, everyone, really,
Yes.
of all faiths, to understand the whole issue of destructive, deceptive, mind control cults.
That's right.
And how they systematically move people away from trusting their families, so they
Yes.
instruct them, don't tell your family because they won't understand,
That's
and
right.
then they isolate them, and
That's
they
right.
begin to indoctrinate them, listening for hours and hours late at night, often YouTube videos,
Yeah.
indoctrination videos and such. So I'd like to just ask you to say a few words. If you had your way, if some foundation said, Ron White, Dr. Ron White, what would you see needing to happen? What are some of your ideas?
Good. So, education, pedagogy. The entire thrust is wide education in all realms.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually writing a grant now to the Jonah Pestner of the Reformed Jewish to create a course called Islam 101 because I want to teach Islam 101 in synagogues around the country.
Uh-huh.
So that's just one thing.
That's one small thing.
But they can come to understand exactly everything that I'm saying about Islam
Right.
with regard to the Prophet and to the Quran and to all aspects of it and into current issues that we're facing right now.
Right.
And so that they
That's a great example of educating the Jewish communities
Yes.
about what Muslims
Yes.
are needing to do. But my understanding also from talking with lots of Muslims, especially American Muslims,
Yes.
kind of the need for a reformation, in a sense,
yes,
within the religion itself,
There is-
because it's been co-opted by this sliver of fanatics.
it's so what we
In
need
terms
to
of the media that's
Yes.
being
We
disseminated.
need to understand the kinds of things that Karen Armstrong is saying in her book on fundamentalism and the growth of fundamentalism around the world, and we need to bring 1.6 billion Muslims from pre-modern into post-modern. And I'm engaged in that. I'm at the tip of a progressive group of Muslims who actually want to make a mosque which is friendly to lesbians and gays.
That's really out there.
That's absolutely right. So the fundamental
In a good way. I want to add.
the fundamental quality that's needed there too is patience and compassion because Muslims aren't ready for that. Muslims are hardly ready for the gender issue, let alone the sexual orientation issue. So this is going to take, once again, education, pedagogy, sitting with people, listening to people, and helping them grow from a pre-modern worldview to a post-modern, that's going to take 50 years, worldview.
Uh-huh.
And as that occurs, they will feel comfortable being in the United States of America. And why? Because the United States of America is the center of the growth of the postmodern mind. So we've gone through the civil rights movement, the anti-war movement, the feminist movement, the gay movement, the human potential movement, and the spiritual movement. All of these brought us into the postmodern world, and now we've got to educate Islam and make them comfortable living in this postmodern environment.
Right. So people like, I don't even want to say his name, who's running for president, is kind of
Yes.
moving us backward
Exactly.
to isolationist,
Exactly.
extremist, polarized,
Yes.
us versus them, fear mentality. But what I love about your teaching is it's about love and understanding
That is the core.
and compassion.
That is the core. The core is love. And as Dr. King said, when you make the funeral for me, don't make it long. Don't say anything about the Nobel Prize. Just say that Dr. King tried to love somebody. That is at the core of it. You have to love somebody. And what we have to teach in Islam is that the Prophet ﷺ, Muhammad, did the same thing. The core is loving and being loving. He always says, have faith and do good works.
that's the core of Judaism.
Exactly.
That's what resonates for me.
Exactly.
Is that we're all one.
Exactly.
The Almighty is one, and therefore every person is a unique expression of the divine.
Exactly.
And how to get past the anger and how to get past the fear.
Yes.
And see the essence
Yes.
of somebody's beingness.
Yes.
And empower them to be themselves.
Exactly.
Not just a mind control slave or robot to someone else.
Right. So this is going to take education, 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 with love at the center, lots of patience, lots of compassion, and with a deep commitment that yes, we will succeed in this.
So part of the reason, if I can just be blunt,
Yes.
why I wanted, and I've been after you for a year to
Right.
sit you down,
Yes.
to get you online, is because I think young people need inspiration from someone who's been around the planet for decades.
Yes.
You have a lot of wisdom to share, and unlike these radicals who are on YouTube giving these sermons of extremism, I would
Right.
love to see more love sermons.
Yes.
And more teachings
Yes.
out there.
Yes.
So for me, I'd love to see somebody funding you to do a whole series online
Absolutely.
that could be aimed at particularly vulnerable people who maybe are going through a hard phase of their life, whether
Yes.
it's economically or socially. I talked about for decades, people are situationally vulnerable to cult recruitment.
Yes.
But I also know that people right now are feeling very unsure in institutions that exist.
Right.
Because of systematic corruption, because of all kinds of factors. Can you say
Yes.
anything?
Well, this is going to require patience and education once again, and slowly creating the kinds of institutions that lead this kind of work. It has to occur at the local level, and it also must address the needs of all, particularly the young people who feel left behind and left out, and they're angry, and that's reasonable. I think about the black neighborhood all of the time. I think about mass incarceration all of the time. I think about Michelle Alexander and the new Jim Crow. I know that in these neighborhoods there are people who are so angry that they are vulnerable to this kind of recruitment.
Right.
So we must address their needs, and what it requires, once again, is what I keep saying: love, patience, and compassion. Someone has to sit with these kids.
Right.
Look at
But they need role models.
Yes.
They really do. In my opinion, they need people in their lives who can encourage them on a
Yes.
personal level
Yes.
and in a community
Absolutely
level. To
right.
say, look, you're not alone.
That's right.
And we need each other.
Yes.
And we need to work together.
Yes. So that's what I'm engaging in right now as we speak. I have a congregation in Roxbury, and so I have all the different kinds of things that are growing out of that congregation. We have a Buddhist meditation group. Yes, absolutely. And we're also starting a Sufi dancing group so that people will brought together in circles and saying God's name in many different languages. These are the kinds of things that we need to bring people in, and it has to appeal to a wide range of people. Young people like music. Yeah, let's make it musical.
Yeah, and you're a great drummer.
Let's do that,
and
right?
It's so cool.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Let's say hallelujah.
Yeah.
Let's say amen. You know, let's get people up and dancing and moving.
Super.
And that energy of the rock and roll movement of the 60s, we want to galvanize that and use that. We want to go to Palestine, Israel. We want to have people dancing in circles, love, music, drumming, all of these things. We want to use all of this.
So, thank you.
Yes.
We finally got this tape going, and hopefully it'll be the first of many other things for you to give your teaching and to help fund your efforts to move the community in a positive direction.
God willing.
Thank you so much.
Yes, good.
Thanks.
Yeah.